Typically, when I make a video about the best new decks in an upcoming set, I include, the best new decks coming in a new set. Well, with Chaos Rising, there's only 86 new cards, and just 2 of them are good enough to headline a deck. So instead of making a 5-minute video where I only talk about the top 2 new decks, I'll also cover some of the other new EX decks you'll find when the set is out on May 21st, some of whom are slightly playable. There's no sense masterfully baiting you. By far the best new deck in Chaos Rising is Mega Greninja, and it comes in many flavors, just like my foot lotion. At least in Japan, the most popular versions are with Dragapult or Dunsparce, though Dusknoir and Frostlass are also doing well. Regardless of which build you choose, Terra Greninja is arguably the most important card. Not only does this guy deal 170 damage for a single water, one-shotting Meowth, Fezandipiti, and Kangaskhan through weakness, it also grabs you any card from deck. While the list does run Hilda to find Neo Upper, Shinobi Blade is another way to guarantee the card you always want in your hand when playing this deck. Because if you haven't already deduced the combo, get your cheeks ready. Mega Greninja's Ninja Spinner does 120 base damage for 2 water. But if you return a water to your hand, that's up to 200. Neo Upper just so happens to be 2 water. So you can infinitely send Neo Upper back to your hand, never losing it to things like Enhanced Hammer. Best of all, it also allows Dragapult to Phantom Dive, which, if you hate Dragapult, is like hearing long toenails scraped across a chalkboard. Wait, do kids these days even know what chalkboards are? Anyway, along with Neo Upper, you should get intimately familiar with Ignition Energy. If Terra Greninja survives a hit, you can Mirage Barrage next turn, dealing 120 damage to 2 Pokemon, losing the Ignition in the process. Boilet, I hear you say, wouldn't it be a real Shaymin if they had something to protect a bunch? Well, my perfectly manicured subscriber, that's where the Mega helps. If they have Shaymin down, you can Mortal Shuriken twice, knocking it out ahead of a Mirage Barrage. When Mega Greninja is in the active spot, you're able to discard a Water Energy from hand. If you do, you can place 6 damage counters on any one of your opponent's Pokemon. Properly utilizing Surfing Beach and Air Balloon means you can do this twice, then finish up the turn with Terra Greninja. Surfing Beach is also how you deal with Battle Cage, which does protect their bench from getting shurikened. The double shuriken strategy is also the same one you employ with the Dusknoir build going after a Psyduck, making them powerless to stop you. Okay, despite this being the Dragapult version, there's only one copy. The true threat here is Drakloak, further proving why this line is too powerful. It's just continual card draw every turn with a Dragapult cherry on top of this crap sundae. While I am a little worried that you aren't subscribed, and also by the low counts of energy and no recovery aside from 1 Night Stretcher, do the math. You really only need 1 water for Terra Greninja early, 1 Ignition for a Mirage Barrage, and the 1 Neo Upper for Mega Greninja and Dragapult. That leaves 6 water to discard for Mortal Shuriken, which means you can put 60 damage anywhere 6 times. So yeah, if you want to annoy people with damage counters even more in 2026, play this build. Removing Dragapult from the equation, the Dunsparce version is pretty much the same, just with a different draw engine. The benefit here is that freeing up bench spots is easier, and you can remove any damage to Dunsparce whenever you want, provided Watchtower isn't in play. Additionally, Dunsparce EX gives you an easy way to deal with decks like Raging Bolt and Ogerpon Clefairy that load up on basic EXs. But the main difference here is the ace spec. Gone is Neo Upper, in is Grand Tree. You do have to be careful about Frogadier though, since the list only has 2 copies. But if at least one's in deck, you can easily get a Terra Greninja turn 2 thanks to Colress finding both Grand Tree and a water. This list is eerily similar to the last one, except here you have an extra water for more potential shurikening, and Rose's Encouragement opens up a fun combo to replace the one you lost with Neo Upper. If you're behind is thick and juicy, and also if you're behind on prizes, you can use Rosa to accelerate 2 water from the discard pile to either of your stage 2s. If you choose the Mega, you can instantly Ninja Spinner. Not only that, when you send an energy back to your hand, you can use it next turn to Mortal Shuriken. Oh, and the new Froakie from Chaos Rising has 70 hit points, making it more optimaler than the 60 hit point one from Stellar Crown. And the new Frogadier has an attack that gets any 3 Pokemon from deck, further improving your setup. Sure, it's no Drakloak, but it's fine in a Trapinch. Finally, while it's tough to still call it a Mega Greninja deck, there is a version with Dusknoir and Mega Frostlass that's done well in Japan. I mean, there's also builds with Mega Kangaskhan for early draw, just Dusknoir, just Mega Frostlass, and just Mega Starmie, proving how versatile Greninja can be. But for this one, it throws everything at the wall like cooked spaghetti and sees what sticks. Grand Tree is once again the ace spec, because if it stays in play for more than 1 turn, you're in an amazing spot. Greninja can deal with any Psyduck who try to stop Dusknoir, and Mega Frostlass one-shots basically everything in the game for a single water if they have 7 cards in hand. Ripe for prizing issues, this build has just 2 copies of everyone in the Dusknoir and Frostlass lines, along with 3 Froakie, 2 Frogadier, 2 Terra Greninja, and 1 Mega. While you might think 2 copies of Special Red Card is a good idea since Dusknoir's here, remember that you want them to have a bunch of cards in feet for Frostlass. So 1 copy is really all you need. All in all, Mega Greninja has close to 350 top 16 finishes in Japan over the past few months. Compare that to the next best deck on this list, who has about 60, and you can see why this took the top spot. Despite my hopes and dreams, Jennifer Lawrence still hasn't responded to any of my DMs. Also, a solo Beedrill EX deck with the Dunsparce hasn't seen any real success in Japan. Instead, the pairing with Arboliva EX is what's seen some wins in the past, though lately they've dried up more than a Jupiter's head bubble in a desert. The strategy is the same as it always is with a Stage 2 grass deck. Try not to get your back blown out early, then use Force of Vitality to evolve into your Stage 2's turn 2, hoping to overwhelm them. The difference here is that both of your attackers only require a single energy, so Meganium's unnecessary. And the Olive is really only for picking off weak things like Dreepy and Drakloak and Abra and Riolu early, provided they don't have Shaymin down. And even if they do, it's not like EXs are protected by the shrub. Then once Arboliva runs out of juice, that's when you give them a maximum drilling with the bee. For every Beedrill or Beedrill EX you have in play, Rumbling Bees does 110 damage. Do note that there's no baby Beedrill currently in Standard, and if we ever get a Mega Beedrill, that won't count for this attack's damage. That's fine though, because just 3 Beedrill EX down means 330 damage, which is one-shotting almost everything meaningful not named Mega Lucario. And Arboliva can help set up the Pokemon who's great at aura farming. Looking at one of just 4 first-place lists from the entirety of Japan's Chaos Rising format, it's super boring. You play a full Beedrill EX line plus 2 of everyone in the Arboliva line. The Dunsparce helps draw cards, while Forest of Vitality lets you evolve your grass types instantly, provided it isn't your first turn. And for consistency, there's Bug Catching Set and Dawn. While 5 grass energy is low, between 4 Bug Catching Set and 3 Night Stretcher, you should be fine. After all, you might only have 3 total attackers before the game is over. There isn't a whole lot of room for experimentation. Yeah, maybe a copy of Budew would be good to slow them down early, but it takes up a bench spot. And in a perfect world, Beedrill's occupying 4 of them, which is why the Dunsparce is so good here, because it removes itself from play. Otherwise, choose your ace spec. Unfair Stamp is the best, but a couple lists did run Secret Box to find the forest and a supporter. Max Rod isn't entirely necessary here because you always want to lean into Arboliva first. Unless, of course, you have an absolutely insane start where nobody was prized and you have Dawn, Forest, Poffin, and Bug Catching Set in the early going. As for that Bees Nuts build, there's 2 ways you can go about it. Celebi is cracked here, finding a Forest of Vitality and any 2 grass Pokemon with its attack. Then you have to decide if you want Max Rod as your ace spec to nearly recover 2 full Beedrill lines, or if you're willing to eat some Sacred Ash and hope to pull them out of the deck. With the arrival of Special Red Card, meaning Unfair Stamp is no longer the only horrible way to affect your opponent's feat, I'm more partial to Max Rod. Additionally, Redeemable Ticket is a must in the solo Beedrill deck. Prizing is a massive issue. With enough finagling, the ticket can completely save you. Just remember that it puts the top cards of your deck in the prizes, so you want every Weedle, Kakuna, and Beedrill either in hand or in play before redeeming the ticket. I also excluded Meowth EX. Yes, it's important for a fast start, but it's a dead card afterwards, taking up a precious bench space. It's always risky to include the 60 hit point Dunsparce in a Dragapult world, but it does have free retreat. That's important because it gives you more potential chances of attacking with Celebi turn 1 going second. Opening Weedle or Fez is worse news than when I found out that 69% of people who watch my videos think Gekwa is cool. And if you're wondering about the 1 copy of Petrol, that's the fine redeemable ticket. I understand you want Meowth to manually find Petrol, but at a certain point you have to believe in the heart of the cards. For some other options, Fan Rotom is great at getting Dunsparce from your deck while also KOing a Dreepy or Budew for a single energy. The Dunsparce EX is both an easy way to punish Raging Bolt and Ogerpon, along with being your Crustle counter. And provided you don't start it like PDC Gel always does to me, Blood Moon Ursaluna EX is a perfect closer, which are 2 words Jeff Hoffman has never heard. To prove how rough Chaos Rising is, the 3rd best new deck is a freaking Chinchilla that gets obliterated by Mega Lucario's Aura Jab. That is, unless you flip heads. Yep, just like Mega Hawlucha, you have to rely on getting head to stand even a slight chance of winning. Unlike Hawlucha though, who is borderline unplayable, Cinccino prevents all damage if you flip heads. Best of all, provided you have 8 energy attached, its attack can one-shot a Dragapult. There's a few ways to load up Cinccino with energy. While Emboar and Yanmega are decent options, by far the best is Metal Maker Metang. And by best, I mean it has 5 top 16 finishes in the past 3 months, which is abysmal. Still, use Metal Maker a couple times, load up a Cinccino, flip heads at least once per duel, and you have a surprisingly high chance of beating people off. Now, unlike a typical Metal deck where you Petrol turn 1 for Trolley, then use Genesect to get your Metal evolutions, Cinccino isn't a Metal type. so Ultra Ball is entirely necessary, which sucks. On the Mr. Bright side, you can use your energy as discard fodder with Energy Recycler, putting it back into your deck. And Team Rocket's Factory after a Petrol helps draw a couple cards each turn. While not super sexy, this Cinccino list will win you games provided Trolley isn't prized. Between 4 Petrol, 4 Transceiver, and 4 Ultra Ball, the odds of filling up your bench turn 1 are higher than a Venusaur in Pokemon Stadium. Plus, late in the game, Petrol is a way to find special red cards, setting them down to 3 cards. There isn't a whole lot you can change with this version of the deck. If you do decide to go down to a 2-2 line of Cinccino though, you can add Mega Kangaskhan and Regigigas. Just keep in mind that you don't play switch cards, so they're either stuck in the active or you have to waste up to 4 energy to hard retreat them. While nothing comes close to the Metang build, Emboar with Cinccino is second best. This guy can take all fire energy from hand and attach it to your Pokemon however you want, with the main drawback being that it's a stage 2. Fire Breather grabs 7 fire from deck, making it perfect here, though I don't think you can risk having a Meowth down, because they'll just boss the Meowth, bypassing Cinccino's ability entirely while still taking 2 prizes. Instead, you need to show for the win that sometimes it's more fun to be the little spoon and borrow a page from Alakazam. Since Emboar handles the energy acceleration, you can use your manual attachment on Enriching Energy. Give Enriching to the Dunsparce, draw 4 cards, then put the special energy safely back into your deck, ready to be used again next turn. As you peruse the Emboar version's list, remember that 8 is the magic number, allowing the Chinchilla to deal 320 damage. Though if you flip heads a couple times per duel, 4 energy is enough for a 2-shot on Dragapult. Also, I wouldn't blame you for cutting a Rare Candy and maybe even the special red card in favor of a third to Dunsparce and potentially Ignition Energy. Because as the other options for Cinccino go, Ignition Energy is not terrible. It counts as plus 120 damage, you just lose it at the end of the turn. For other ideas, there's Joltik, who accelerates 4 energy from deck with its attack. Grumpig, meanwhile, is basically a harder to repeat Metang, though you can use Strange Timepiece to devolve it. But if you're playing a stage 1 who looks at the top 4 cards of your deck and accelerates all basic energy, it's Metang, not the pig that looks like its bacon would taste horrible. Halloween may be several months away, but from a pure quantity standpoint, Gourgeist EX is the 4th best new deck in Chaos Rising. And because I need to take one more jab at it, the Pumpkin is better than Mega Clefable. Yeah, I said it. I mean, one does 280 damage for a single energy, while the other does 280 damage for 6 total energy. You tell me which sounds better. Anyway, for a single Psychic, including a Telepathic, Gourgeist does 30 base damage. But for each Pokemon on your bench with a damage counter, that's up by 50. So with a full bench of 5, you top out at 280. It's boring, but you play this deck exactly how you think. By putting Risky Ruins into play ahead of a Telepathic, which instantly benches 2 Psychic types from deck, you guarantee they get damaged. Colress fulfills both of these Santa Clauses, making him perfect for the job. The most popular build in Japan paired Gourgeist with Frostlass Munkidori. This way you can put Munkidori into play early, even if you whiff Risky Ruins, and they'll still take damage later. Plus, Lillie's Clefairy allows Gourgeist to one-shot Dragapult with just 3 damage bench Pokemon, though it does become a liability after. Now, if you're a typical Frostlass player, look away, because this image is scarier than watching a shiny Pokemon's HP bar slowly dwindle to nothing while you come to the horrifying realization you hit it with a crit. But you really only want to have one Frostlass in play at a time, so things like your Meowth and Fezandipiti and Clefairy survive long term. You don't mind if they get their butts chewed on slightly, because that's the whole goal with Gourgeist. Plus, Munkidori can always heal them thanks to the included Darkness Energy. Because I can't advocate for a filthy hand control deck, I'll be skipping past the Patrick Swayze version of Gourgeist that relies on Banette, Xerosic, and Ghostly Touch to leave your opponent with a small or even 0-card hand. So definitely don't screenshot this and put it in your secret folder that you look at when you're home alone. Instead, I'll focus on the next best build, which only has 3 top 16 finishes in 3 months. That is, of course, scooping out the innards of the pumpkin with a spoon and using Alakazam. While you might think this is taking 2 separate ideas and making both weaker by combining them, well, you'd be right. Aside from the fact that they're both Psychic types and attack for a single energy, there's very little synergy here. What I will say is that I appreciate how much whacking off the creator did. Remember, Risky Ruins is how you damage the bench. But what if you put Abra down early and couldn't find your stadium? That's when it's time to bring out the timepiece. You devolve the Kadabra after drawing 2 cards, put Abra in the active, then use its teleporter ability to send it back into the deck. It's both hilarious and way more effort than you should be putting into something so potentially weak. The Alakazam build also plays 1 copy of Patrat. Remember that this guy shuts off Munkidori's ability to move damage counters around. That's important because if everything goes right, your Abra will have 20 hit points left, putting them in the danger zone. And if you haven't noticed the other strange timepiece spice, you can let a Gourgeist take a hit from something weak like Budew. Then on your turn, you devolve it, retreat it for free thanks to Latias, then bring up a fresh Gourgeist, meaning they help build up Horrifying Rondo. Another strong card you can add here that attacks for a single energy is the Easter Bunny. You could always add this as a way to deal 230 damage easily, especially paired with Abra's Teleporter. But at that point, I think you're better off with just an Alakazam Lopunny deck, not Gourgeist Alakazam Lopunny. For those wondering about an Area 0 build, it's tough because you can't run Risky Ruins. Instead, you have to go the Frostlass route with Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon plus a lot of ability Pokemon. Except Frostlass damages between turns, so you have to wait a turn hoping they don't bump your Area 0. It's the same reason why an Emolga build wouldn't really work, it's just too slow. Though one copy of Emolga as a break in case of emergency card in the other list isn't the worst idea I've heard. The worst idea I've heard is from Ash, who thought Rhydon's Horn acted like a lightning rod. Out of all the new decks from Chaos Rising that I'm hoping will be better than they seem on paper, it's Mega Dragalge. But I'm ready to be heard again like that time I sat my cheeks in a movie theater chair excited to watch Detective Pikachu. And it seems like you are too, because I've seen the comments from hopeful viewers choosing to believe that this is actually goated and not bad like Japanese players have shown us. As a reminder, Mega Dragalge's first attack is basically a Megaton Blower, which I usually have to pay Mr. Paddlebottom extra for. Corrosive Liquid discards all of your opponent's tools and special energy for 2 colorless. That might seem great until you remember that Jamming Tower and Tool Scrapper deal with tools without exposing a 3-prizer. As for the special energy part, both Mist and Rocky Fighting block Corrosive Liquid's effect. This essentially makes Enhanced Hammer a must, which kinda defeats the purpose. It's the same story with Pernicious Poison. For a Water and Darkness, it poisons their active, putting 16 damage counters between turns. That's great, KOing a Dragapult coming into your turn if they don't retreat or switch. But again, Mist, Rocky, and even the new bubbly Water Energy all stand in your way. All of this is a long-winded way of saying that while Dragalge has potential, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I didn't even mention the fact that several decks are playing Lillie Clefairy to counter Dragapult, and the Algae Dragon just kinda gets caught in the crossfire. Now that you know how bad Dragalge can be, let's talk about the good. For the first build, it's what you expect from a poison-focused version. You play Crispin to power up Dragalge, Perilous Jungle to add a bit more poison damage, Gravity Gemstone to make retreating harder, and the new Roxy's Performance to prevent retreating altogether. Latias EX can be a bit of a problem, which is why Baby Yveltal and Baby Petrarunt are here. Simply gust up the Latias, then trap it in the active. You will need to use skill and math to KO it at the right time, but I believe in you. Unless your name is Trust Your Pilot, then you're doomed. As you can see from the list, 4 Crushing Hammer gives you a chance to discard their basic energy, while Corrosive Liquid gets rid of their eligible special energy. It definitely seems a bit flimsy, but if you manage to poison the right Pokemon at the right time, it could win. Of course, the best way to play Dragalge isn't in a deck on its own. Because it attacks for a Water and Darkness, Munkidori plus Mega's Starmie and Frostlass become great partners. Just like Gourgeist with Alakazam though, and unlike putting 2 bare feet together, this isn't a case of 2 halves making a whole. Still, this gives you 3 different Megas, all of whom do different things. Starmie spreads cheeks, Frostlass can deal huge damage, and Dragalge does its best. I didn't bother changing up the one Japanese list I found featuring these cards. You basically play a 2-2 of each Mega, then pick whichever one is right for the job. I just worry about having to take a full Crispin turn to power up Dragalge when it's much better to put one on Starmie or Frostlass than another on Munkidori. I wish I had more ways to play Dragalge to show you. But aside from something like Zoroark with Ent's PP up and Energy Switch or Wellspring knocked out with Crispin, it seems there's not much place for Dragalge in our current ecosystem. But I'll still play this stupid thing for 3 hours in a couple weeks uploading a video where I only show my wins, thus tricking you into thinking it's actually playable. While I'm not so far gone mentally that I'm willing to show off a Crocodile EX list, I will spend a few minutes talking about Mega Floette EX and why you shouldn't bother. Remember when I said Mega Greninja has around 350 top 16 finishes? Floette's at 2. And the best performing of the bunch didn't even run Wonders Patch, which I think you definitely need. To be fair, if everything goes right, Floette can set you up for success. It just comes at the cost of potentially losing the game faster because the damn thing's a 3-prizer with 250 hit points. For 3 Psychic, Eternity Bloom does 200 damage and accelerates up to 4 basic Psychic energy from deck. If you go second, this is possible turn 1. Between Mystery Garden and Ultra Ball, you can get 2 Psychic in the discard pile, then Wonders Patch them onto Floette. It's a lot, but still doable. More likely though, you'll end your first turn delightfully kissing some toes, putting 2 energy onto Floette for free with Smoochum. And don't forget the Telepathic plus Latias EX combo, allowing you to easily retreat into Smoochum. But there's more red flags with Floette than my ex-wife who ditched Pidgey in favor of Spearow. I mean, the damn thing can't even one-shot a Fezandipiti or any of the Ogerpon. Thankfully, it can be useful in a few different decks, even if 2 Smoochum is better than 1 Floette. Looking at new Chaos Rising cards, there's Xerneas and Deoxys. Gerard Butler's favorite card, Geosturm Xerneas, does 30 damage times the number of Psychic energy attached to all your Pokemon. Get 10 in play, that's 300. As for Deoxys, if you truly believe it's surviving, put all 4 Psychic on it, then try to blow your entire load next turn with a Psy Spear. Because if Deoxys has 5 energy attached, it can deal 120 to the active and 120 to someone on the bench. Alternatively, you can go with someone like Azumarill EX. This guy sucks up all the Psychic energy you have in play, dealing 340 damage if there's 7 attached to itself. And don't forget that Lillie's Clefairy lets you hit dragons for weakness. Now, I'm going to show you why Angie Floette is a terrible card. First up, it has to evolve from Prism Tower. Except if you have Prism Tower, that means no Mystery Garden, which is so much better. While Angie Floette does give Mega Floette an extra 150 hit points, which can be further pushed to 500 with Hero's Cape, what if they have Jamming Tower? Yeah, if they plop a fat, stinky Jamming Tower on the table, your double stadium is gone. And your Floette's back down to a measly 250 hit points, which Dragapult can easily deal with. Okay, while the sage wisdom I just bequeathed upon you says that playing Mega Floette is a terrible idea, this is how you can build it. This version focuses on Angie Floette, but goes with Secret Box instead of Hero's Cape for better consistency. Since Floette can accelerate energy to anybody, Kangaskhan does become a potential attacker, making you wonder why you aren't just running Smoochum Kangaskhan in the first place. Then there's the Azumarill build. Angie Floette's gone, and Lively Stadium is the main stadium instead of Mystery Garden because surviving a hit is important. With the loss of experience share though, I'm definitely off the Azumarill train. And no Wondrous Patch seems like a massive mistake. Still, this is the second of Floette's 2 top 16 lists, which is sad to say out loud. If you're wondering where Mega Gallade and Mega Pyroar decks are, not even I'm crazy enough to spend time coming up with lists for them. Well, until I stream them. But that's a problem for future me. And Cobalion isn't something you bother building a deck around, so I ignored that as well. I'll have a few more videos about new Chaos Rising decks ahead of set launch on May 21st, so make sure you grip that mouse with your bare feet and click the subscribe button.